glad you're with us as we continue another Sabbath. Like always, we started celebrating the Sabbath last night. And of course, the lesson that we dealt with last night was part one of the lesson that we're doing today. And that's all it's going to be is 2 parts. Because I could squeeze all this in 1 part, but I didn't want to make a 3.5, 4-hour lesson, give you a break this time. So we did part 1 last night. And again, like I said last night, this is a lesson that the average person, even the average so-called black person that say they believe in Jesus, they find it hard to believe. They find it real far-fetched that the people of the Bible could actually be a black people. So, but when you look at the scripture, and when you just look at reality and know that everybody got to come from somewhere. Everybody has an origin. Everybody, even at one time, had their own homeland. So how is it that you got one people that don't have a clue about who they really are and where they from? How is that the case? Well, it's the case because God said it would be that way, and it's all over the Bible. That's where you can find this people's history at in the Bible. You can use some other sources, but mainly the only way we know who we are is through the Bible. So we title it The Bible's Black History, even though, like I said last night, we don't have to do it during Black History Month because Black history ain't no more than white history, really. It's just a fact that the people of the Bible that's lost now is the black people. So, per se, to me personally, it's erroneous. Black History Month is erroneous because it's a whole lot of black people. But that's only set up for the lost black people. That's what we don't realize. That's what Black History for. You don't see what we call Africans and Nigerians, these people, Zimbabwe. You don't see them getting hung up on Black History Month. That's only for the lost black people. So we're going to get into it. So yes, last night we dealt with it at the beginning and pretty much showed the first part, the importance of knowing that Israel, whoever they are, that they are black people, and that they improve the color, that they have to be black. So, because that's the first thing people say. A lot of times they say that, that this don't matter. Well, it don't matter. If they was black, Some people even say when it come to Jesus, he wasn't no color. Well, he had to be some color. And that's what I say. It was okay when, we got a whole lot of pictures that in the 15th, 16th century that they authorized Michelangelo to paint everything white. That was okay when you paint everything white, but when you just tell the truth like it is, people have a problem with it. And it shouldn't be no big problem that we find out that people of the Bible is black, Israel, and Jesus, because color is really overrated anyway. It's overrated because we all the same when it come down to it. Black or white got to use the same type of toilet. I don't even care if you rich white. You still got to sit on the toilet. You have to use the bathroom just like a poor person have to use the bathroom. So color is overrated. People make a big deal out of color. We're not even here to make a big deal out of color. We're just here to point out the facts that the people of the Bible is black. And we pointed that out yesterday, how the Lord, like on this billboard we got here, how the Lord showed Israel was always around. These are ancient artifacts that was dug up out of tomb. King Tut and his wife, Israel was always around the Egyptians and other around Hamites, because Israel not a Hamite like we read from the encyclopedia yesterday. But they was around these people, so that proved that they had to look like them. Just like the dictionary said that Ham is the father of the dark races, but not the Negro. Because even the people that wrote the dictionary knew better. Because Israel is Abraham's seed, and they come from Shem, not Ham. So we touched on that. But how do you know which Israelite, which black people are the people of the Bible or are Israel? Because of what we're going to talk about today, they the only people that got cursed as a whole people. And really, for all practical purposes, destroyed as a whole people. That's how you know. That's why there's no doubt about it when you look in the Bible. And we as a people, that's ironic because we as a people want to put our head in the sand and act like there's no such thing as a curse. Want to try to deny it. No, I ain't going to claim it. It don't matter. It's going to claim you. It has been claiming you. So you can stick your head in the sand and act like, well, no, I can't be cursed. I'm blessed. And then one of the teenagers gets shot and killed. Then you find out how blessed you really are. Because if God say you're going to be cursed, you can send the bad news home. You're going to be cursed, and that's what God said. So we're going to deal with the Bible's Black History Part 2. This is the last part. And we're going to start off in Isaiah 43. So that's how you know, because there's a whole lot of black nationality. That's why I said last night, say it again. It's really not a black thing. Israel is just one group of blacks from among many. But how do you know them? Because they've been cursed. Not just lightweight brothers and sisters, but a divine curse from Almighty God. And that means there's nothing you could do about it. You can riot, you can march, you can get upset, you can burn down your own neighborhood. You ain't going to go to nobody else's neighborhood and burn it down. When you get through, you just going to still be cursed. Because God set it up. And that's why we don't even blame man. Like, some brothers try to blame man. Oh, the white man did this. Look, God is in control. How you going to blame man and God sits on the throne controlling everything? The Bible's Black History Part 2, Isaiah 43 and verse 27. Isaiah 43 and verse 27. Okay, go ahead.
Thy first father hath sinned, and thy teacher hath transgressed against me.
So this is what the Lord said way in Isaiah time. Thy first father hath sinned, and thy teachers have transgressed against me. He's talking about Israel. He's going to tell you in the next verse. Go ahead.
Therefore I have profaned the princesses of the sanctuary, and have given Jacob to the curse, and Israel to reproach.
See, God repeat himself because he want to reiterate stuff. He want to make sure it sink into you. So he repeat himself often in the Bible. Like he said in Job 27. Job said, the Spirit of God is in his nostrils. He said, as long as he breathing, he said, the Spirit of God is in his nostrils, and something about his breath. So he repeat himself. Like he said in Exodus 19, he said, Moses, you go and tell Israel, such and such, and go and tell the house of Jacob, such and such. The same people. Right. So he said here, therefore have I profaned the princes of the sanctuary, and I have given Jacob to the curse. So it's a done deal. This is God talking. He said, I've given Jacob to the curse, and Israel, same people, to reproaches. That means you messed up. God made you a reproachful people, and he did it because of our disobedience. But he said he given Jacob to the curse and Israel to reproaches. But now go to Daniel the 9th chapter. Daniel the 9th chapter. Daniel the 9th chapter. See, he often repeat himself. We proved how Israel was among Ham. The ones on the to you all the left side of the billboards. King Tut, Israel was among them. But we read yesterday in Psalm 105, he said, Israel came into Egypt, or Jacob came into Egypt, and Israel sojourned in the land of Ham. He keep reiterating. Egypt and Ham at the same place. That's where Israel was first enslaved at. But he repeat himself. Now we find out that he gave Jacob to the curse and Israel to reproaches. So we're gonna look at this curse because that's the distinguishing characteristic on how you can identify the real Israelites from among all the other black people, because there are many black nationalities. Even like we showed, the Egyptians black, the Ethiopians are black. So how do you know Israel? You can say Israel black, but how do you distinguish them from everybody else? Because they've been cursed. They've been cut off from who they are, don't have a clue of name nor origin. Don't have a clue. That's why they had to make up something called Black History or Black History Month. And that don't touch the surface on Israel's real history. Daniel 9 and verse 9. Go ahead.
To the Lord our God belong mercies and forgiveness. Though we have rebelled against him, neither have we obeyed the voice of the Lord our God.
Now, Daniel, one of the greatest prophets in the Bible, he understood that Israel was in trouble for disobedience. Matter of fact, Daniel was one of the first waves that went into captivity under Nebuchadnezzar. He was actually, at this time, a slave in Babylon, so he understood it firsthand. He did not try, brothers and sisters, to stick his head in the sand and say, I'm not going to claim the curse. I'm not going to act like I'm not going to acknowledge it. I'm blessed and highly favored. He didn't do that. He dealt with reality, and he knew where reality came from. He knew it was authorized by God. He didn't even start blaming man. He didn't start pointing the finger. Nebuchadnezzar, he ain't no good. That heathen. He didn't point the finger at nobody. He is seeking God because he know God is the one that authorized it. So what did he say? To the Lord our God belong mercy, because that's what he's looking for. And forgiveness, though we have rebelled against him. 10.
Neither have we obeyed the voice of the Lord our God to walk in his law, which he set before us by his servants, the prophets.
See, we didn't obey. That's our problem. We got in trouble. And that's the problem to this day. That's why things don't get no better as a whole, because we got many churches set up and they hate the law of God. They refuse to obey. They preach against obeying the law of God under some false flag of do-nothing grace. And so you just perpetuating the problem. So you go to church more than anybody, and when you leave, you catch more hell than anybody. But go ahead.
Yea, all Israel have transgressed the law.
All Israel have transgressed the law. That's what the problem is. And it's still a problem. If it was a problem back then that led you into slavery, you think it's not going to be the problem now? This is the way to rectify the problem. That's why when you turn back and start obeying God, the Lord look out for you, be a little sanctuary from you. Still, you got to live in this world, but the Lord has some mercy on you. Like Daniel was looking for some mercy. Yea, all Israel have transgressed thy law. Go ahead.
Even by departing, that they might not obey thy voice. Therefore the curse is poured upon us. And the oath that is written in the law of Moses, the servant of God, because we have sinned against him.
See, Daniel understood. He didn't try to hide. He didn't try to, I'm not going to be cursed. Got all kind of disease, high blood pressure, sugar, diabetes. I'm not cursed. People dying all around you, the house on fire. I'm not cursed. We fooling ourselves. Daniel didn't try to fool himself, bro. He was a great prophet, and he was getting protection from the Lord. The Lord was with him, giving him visions and dreams, but he knew his predicament as a whole. He knew he was under a curse because he knew God couldn't lie. Just like Isaiah, we read in Isaiah, he said, your first father sinned, therefore he have given Jacob to the curse and Israel to reproaches. All kind of bad stuff happening to you now because God is against you. So Daniel said here, he said, therefore the curse is poured upon us. And to this day, and the oath that is written in the law of Moses, he even knew where to go read it and find out where it originated at. That's where the curse originated. That's when God laid the curse out there. And he didn't even say it was going to, dogmatically, it was going to happen. He said, if you don't obey, it would happen. Well, evidently, we didn't obey according to Daniel right here, right? And according to Isaiah, because he said he have given Israel to the curse. Wasn't no ifs, ands, and buts about it by this time. So he said, and Therefore, since we didn't obey the Lord's voice, therefore the curse is poured upon us and the oath that is written in the law of Moses. See, that's why we're going to touch on the other side of the board today because, hey, that's proof positive that Israel been cursed down to this day because God don't change. Because it's a long curse. He even told you in Deuteronomy, he going to make your plagues of long continuance. We can't read all of it. He said, and the oath that is written in the law of Moses. So that's where you can go back, and we're going to do that in a minute. We're going to go read it. The servant of God, why? Because we have sinned against him. Verse 12, go ahead.
And he have confirmed his words, which he spake against us.
Of course, because God can't lie, can he? You're going to make God a lie so you can claim to be blessed, and God can't lie. So if he say you're going to be cursed as a whole, you're going to be cursed. He confirmed his words which he spake against us. Go, and against who?
And against our judges.
Go ahead.
That judged us. By bringing upon us a great evil.
People lie. God won't do no evil. You better look around. That's what he done. See, all this stuff couldn't happen to one group of people. You can't be led away on slave ships in slavery, then get there and be sold to your enemies, be beat down and oppressed continually by your enemies, just misused, and God don't have nothing to do with it. Well, God went to sleep. He didn't know this was going on. No, he knew. Matter of fact, he made it happen. According to the Bible, he said, and by bringing upon us a great evil God brought upon his own people, the people who he chose to serve him because we didn't serve him, and he promised he would do this, and he cannot lie. Go ahead.
For under the whole heaven have not been done as hath been done upon Jerusalem.
See, nothing been done this bad to Jerusalem and the people of Jerusalem and Israel. Go ahead.
As it is written in the law of Moses, all this evil is come upon us.
He keep referring us back to the law of Moses, so it makes sense for us to go back and read it. As it is written in the law of Moses, all this evil, and this is to this day. Pay attention to what he's going to say here. As it is written in the law of Moses, all this evil has come upon us, but what we doing?
Yet may we not our prayer before the Lord our God.
Go ahead.
That we might turn from our iniquity and understand that truth.
See, we still won't acknowledge it. We got all these churches, but we praying to a false God. Won't acknowledge that God is doing this to us, and we need to turn back and obey him. That's what got us in trouble. That's the solution. Marching on Washington get you in trouble. Go ahead.
Therefore hath the Lord watched upon the evil.
See, not only did the Lord say Daniel said the Lord brought all this evil upon him. People say the Lord don't do evil. That's true. They're not reading the Bible at all. Not only did he do evil, he said the Lord watched upon the evil. It's like the Lord directing the evil. The Lord going to make sure it come down on your head. The Lord watching and guiding and directing the evil. That's the only way all these atrocities could happen to one people. And you got to try to turn around and blame the white man. You don't recognize God when you do that. You taking the credit and the authority from God, who you should be acknowledging, who's in control and making it happen. So he said, therefore hath the Lord watched upon the evil. Go ahead.
And brought it upon us.
Go ahead.
For the Lord our God is righteous in all his works.
I'm sorry, finish that.
Which he doeth, but we obey not his voice.
See, people get misconstrued the fact that just because the Lord bring evil, that don't mean it's unrighteous. He do what's just. In other words, you deserve the evil. Daniel is acknowledging that all that the Lord done to us, we deserved it. And even probably deserve more, just the Lord is merciful. But he's acknowledging that we deserve it because the Lord swore that he would do it if we disobeyed. And we knew up front that this would happen. And so we did it anyway. So he said, look, he brought it upon us because he is righteous. He righteous even by doing this because he can't lie. He got to do what's right. In other words, he going to hurt his own people because of righteousness. Because you don't want to do right, he not going to have no special favor towards you. He gonna punish you like he said. Because he writes in all his work which he doeth for is our fault. For we obeyed not his voice. Go back to Deuteronomy 28 now. Because Daniel kept referring us back to where it was written at. Why all this is happening. This is why it's all happening. God told Israel before they went into the promised land that this would happen. And being that he can't lie, brothers and sisters, it had to happen. And we are the recipients or the proof that it's happened. 28:1. See, again, you got to look at the whole story. You can't just focus on being blessed. We all should want to be blessed. I want to be blessed. But what will help me and everybody else be blessed if we have enough sense to recognize it's a chance we can be cursed if we don't do what's necessary to be blessed. That's what will help you be blessed. But if there's a such thing as a blessing, it got to be a such thing as a curse, because a blessing don't mean nothing unless it's a curse out there. 28:1, go ahead.
And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth.
Now, he's talking to Israel, the people who he had Moses bring out of Egypt after Moses escaped death by growing up in Pharaoh's house when Pharaoh was killing all the Hebrews. Moses escaped death. That's what let us know if the Egyptians are black like these pictures show, King Tut and his wife and these other pictures that they dug out of tombs. This is not nothing we drew. Like Michelangelo made up some stuff by his imagination and drew a lot of, Gentile-looking pictures. Made Jesus look like a Gentile. Made, all the apostles and people. But those just drawings that he made up. These are not drawings. These came out of tombs. They are original artifacts that people buried thousands of years ago. So that's how we know that Israel black. That's one of the ways, because Moses passed as an Egyptian, and we know Egyptians come from Ham. They are black. But now, once the Lord had Moses bring Israel from bondage out of the house of Ham, he gave them the promised land. Still was in Ham, because Canaan, another son of Ham, had the promised land, and he took it from Canaan and gave it to Israel. So it was all black people at that time. But they hadn't made it to the promised land right here. God is telling them the rules and regulations that have to be adhered to in the promised land, or else. So he said, it shall come to pass, if you diligently hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments, which I command thee. And it's not really that hard when you make your mind up, brothers and sisters. People go, oh, you can't keep all them commandments. Well, you can do the best you can. Start with one. Oh, it's 600-something laws. Start with one and work your way up.
That's right.
Do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations. God is able to do that because he controlled the whole world, but it was stipulated on obedience, wasn't it? And what else? Verse 2.
And all these blessings shall come on thee.
And all these blessings. But how you going to get all these blessings? By obeying God, adhering to his commandments. See, if you're going to adhere to anything, you might as well adhere to God's commandments. Right now, we got all these churches adhering to man's commandments, man's tradition, what they made up. That's why we got church on Sunday, because a man told you that. You can't read that in the Bible. They lied to you, said Jesus rose on Sunday, the first day of the week. That's a lie. It didn't change. Oh, it changed. And then when you catch them in that lie, say it didn't change. They say, oh, it don't matter. Every day the Sabbath. Now, that's another lie. Every day can't be the Sabbath. One day is the Sabbath. It's the seventh day. And it's ironic. People say it don't matter, but they all wallow on down to church on Sunday, the first day. So it matters to you because you still going on the wrong day. But you're going to follow a commandment, but it's not by God. You're going to get blessed for keeping God's commandment. All these blessings shall come upon thee. That was stipulated in verse 1, if you observe to do all his commandments that he commands you. Now you're going to be blessed. All these blessings shall come upon thee and do what?
And overtake thee.
You're just going to be wallowing in blessings. It won't, like people like to say, they like to get real spiritual. Oh, I love you and ain't nothing you can do about it. Well, that's true. Right here, you was going to be blessed. It wasn't going to be nothing you can do about it if you obeyed, though. All these blessings come upon thee and overtake thee if what?
If thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God.
That's a big word, though, isn't it? If. If. But now, like I've been saying, if it's possible for you to be blessed, it got to be possible for you to be cursed. And we read already Israel cursed. So this is just a formality, us coming back and reading where he first laid it out. Go ahead, skip to verse 15 though, and go ahead.
But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day,
go ahead,
that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
Look, brothers and sisters, should we not read this? Should we just act like this is not in the Bible? You know, we can read about the blessings only 13 verses prior, but should we ignore this in the Bible? Look, it's all of it's good and all of it's for our edification, so we know what to do. So we can't ignore this like people would have us do. Because like the saying go, it is what it is. So on the other hand, quite naturally, if you were stipulated, the blessing was stipulated by obeying, quite naturally, it's something else coming if you don't obey. And he didn't hide it from us at all. He said, if now it's going to come to pass, if you don't keep his commandment, you don't hearken to the voice of the Lord and do his command, that all these curses. See, that's why when you understand that what happened to us came from God, you don't have to be walking around mad at people for what you think they're responsible for, because you know God is the author of it, and really it's your own fault or your own forefathers' fault. He said, all these curses gonna come upon you and overtake thee. And we know it happened already, because he said in Isaiah, he have given Israel to the curse, right? Daniel said, the curse and the oath that is written in the law of Moses poured upon them. Now we're going to identify some of the particulars of this curse. Go ahead, keep reading.
Cursed shalt thou be in the city.
Oh, you're going to be cursed everywhere. Go ahead.
And cursed shalt thou be in the field.
See, wherever you at, you're going to be cursed. And this is going to be, like we said about the blessing, this is going to be the same way. It won't be nothing you can do about it. Even those of us who obeying, we still in the midst of the curse, even though we obeying, because the curse is on the people as a whole, and now it's like a sentence that got to be lived out. So it's nothing you can do about it. It's just like, hey, we doing our best to obey, but we still as a people in slavery.
Right.
It hadn't changed. Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. See, we thought, some of our foreparents thought, a lot of them left from down south where the field was, right? They said, well, look, it's hard down south. We're going to go up north. It's going to be better. Look, they got up north and found some curses up there too. Maybe in different forms and shapes, but God said you're going to be cursed wherever you're at, didn't he? So you ain't going to leave Mississippi and get totally away from no curse in Chicago. It wasn't going to happen. That's what some people thought, though. Well, I can't say they thought it. They just looking for something better because it was hard. But it's still hard, isn't it? Because God said it. But now, go to verse 25. We're going to skip around. You can read it all on your own. Go ahead.
The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies.
See, and the Lord allows Satan to do certain things, but ultimately it comes from the Lord, don't it? And it said, the Lord shall allow you to be smitten before your enemies. The Lord, though, he going to cause you to be smitten before your enemies. Go ahead.
Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them, and shalt be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth.
And in the final analysis, this is the big sign of Israel's curse. In the final analysis, Israel going to be taken into slavery. This is the big sign. This is how you know who Israel is, because the big part of this curse, it ends up in slavery, out of your own land, not knowing where you from, not knowing who you are. And this is what he said here. And some of the Bibles changed this and put some of the other Bibles, the different translations, they put something else here that don't even make it seem like what it is. But that's okay. It's too many other places let you know you're going to be removed into slavery. Because that's what that means. In the final analysis, you're going to be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. That means taken and transported as slaves. not migrate. Everybody came to this country as a migrant. Everybody came on their own free will, except one group of people, the people that God's talking about right here, because you wasn't going to migrate. He said you're going to be removed. So it's one people here, not two or three. It's one people here that was brought here by force as slaves. And that cannot go unnoticed. That happened because it was written here. But skip to verse 30 and go ahead.
Thou shalt betroth a wife.
See, now you off in captivity, which is where it always ends. And then you just get oppressed continually. He said, thou shalt betroth a wife, right? And what's going to happen?
And another man shall lie with her.
Now, we can stop and analyze this a little bit, because somebody might say, well, that happened to everybody. That's what people try to say. Oh, a lot of people went into slavery. Look, nothing like this people. This is a whole people. This is not a handful of them. This is a whole nation carted off into slavery and have been lost ever since. And he said, well, thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. See, you know, that happens to all people. You know, that's just, we can just call that adultery, right?
Right.
But see, he's not talking about adultery, is he? He's not talking about somebody sneaking in the back door, sleeping with somebody else's wife. He's not talking about that, brother and sister. Remember, this is a curse. This is not the run-of-the-mill adultery. This is what we saw, even they rehash in some of these movies, like Roots. Roots was kind of lightweight, but still they showed it. They showed that whenever the master, who was your slave master, felt like he could take a man's wife and sleep with her. Right. That's what this is talking about. Straight up oppressor. He said, thou shalt betroth a wife. You're going to betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Go ahead.
Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof.
In other words, you won't have nothing of your own. Not even your wife belong to you, because the master can come and take her anytime. Even you did all the work, build the house, and you couldn't stay in the house. You had to stay in the field where they had basically slave shacks. I'll never forget, not too long ago, maybe about 10 years ago, it might have been longer than that. I don't know. It might have been in the 90s. I went to Louisiana. I had never been there. I went to Louisiana and was amazed to find that they still had plantations down there. And Gentiles run the plantations because they made them tourist sites. They still got them to this day, brothers and sisters. I was amazed. I had my family, had my kids. I said, well, we're going to go check this out. And they happened to be on lunch. And they said, well, you know, you got to pay to get in. I didn't feel like I needed to pay to get in there, for one thing. I said, look, I want to get in there. Well, we on lunch. I said, let me in. And they were like, oh, okay. They saw that, look, I wasn't playing. I want to look around. And they said, oh, okay. We'll let you in. Then they had the nerve to say, but you can't go in the big house. It's locked. I said, oh, ain't nothing changed, huh? And so then they had a brother that was there. He took us back to the slave quarter. And he took us back to one of the shacks. He said, well, this was slave. And then he said, well, look, you know what I'm going to do? I ain't lying. God is my witness. He said, I'm going to step out here outside. Y'all do what y'all want to. I'm going to tell you, because some people come in here, they get mad, they tear stuff up. So if that's what you want to do, go ahead. I'm going to step out. But we looked around, and then, of course, I'm stiff-necked. I'm concrete. I'm going to go in the big house anyway. I was like, skip that. I'm going in the big house too. But the bottom line is, this is what he's talking about. He said, you're going to have a wife, at verse 30, another man going to lie with her whenever he feel like it. Not sneaking, though, in your face.
Right.
Come and get her and sleep with her. That had to be a hard pill to swallow. But it was a curse from God. Thou shalt build an house, and you're not going to dwell in the house. You can't dwell in the big house. You had to sleep somewhere else. You're going to plant a vineyard. Or like in Mississippi, the big thing, which is where one side of my family was from. I found out the other side was from Louisiana. That's why I went down there. The other side was from Mississippi, and that's all they was picking down there was cotton. So they was picking cotton. Even had people still stayed on the plantation down there years later after slavery over. Even when I went down there, you used to have to go, a lot of us used to have to go down, that lived up here, had to go down south in the summer because you ain't had no babysitter. I used to have to go down to Mississippi, Greenwood, Mississippi, in the summer, and they still stayed on Wildwood Plantation. Still stayed on the plantation. So he said, you're going to build a house, you're not going to dwell there. You're going to plant a vineyard, you're not going to gather grapes. It's not for you because you being oppressed. Verse 31, go ahead.
Thine ox shall be slain before thine eyes, and thou shalt not eat thereof. Thine ass shall be violently taken away from
right in front of your face. They'll take whatever is yours. Go ahead.
And shall not be restored to thee. Thy sheep shall be given unto thine enemies, and thou shalt have none to rescue them.
Go ahead.
Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand.
Nothing you can do about it. See, just like you can be blessed and there's nothing you can do about it, well, brothers and sisters, it got to be a way for you to be cursed and nothing you can do about it. So they take your sons and daughters, like in Ruth, they showed it. The man wanted to make sure he called himself naming. He was worshiping the moon anyway. That's why he held Kizzy up to the moon when she was born. Because we've been off on, that all come from Islam. We've been off on that a long time because we was already slaves before we came to this country. We was already slaves worshiping false gods in what's known as Africa. So he said, but your sons and your daughters shall be given unto another people. That's what happened to her. He named her Kizzy, which supposed to mean stay put, but even she got sold to somebody else, and he saw it happening. Wasn't nothing he can do. He better not even try nothing. He had his foot cut off enough times to know. He knew better. The only thing he did is beat the ground a little bit, Kunta Kinte. Because he said, thine eyes shall look and feel belonging for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in your hand. Nothing you can do about it. Right. Go ahead, 33.
The fruit of thy hand.
The fruit of thy land.
The fruit of thy land and all thy labor shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up. And thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always.
So the fruit of your land, the land that we once had, somebody else is going to enjoy that. Somebody else is going to occupy that and eat that up. But on the other hand, Israel is going to be only oppressed. Now, we always talking about why we oppressed. Oh, they oppressed me so bad. Oh, they oppressed. I'm oppressed. Oppression. But it comes from the Bible. God said it so. He made it this way. Verse 37, go ahead.
And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee.
See, now this hit the nail on the head for us, brothers and sisters. The Lord sent us off into slavery, and he said, when you go into these nations, because he already said you're going to be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth, he said you're going to become an astonishment. See, we're in amazement, not just to ourselves, but more so to other people. People are amazed at how a people can be so messed up and downtrodden. But then other people act like they didn't have nothing to do with it. No, it's just like right now. You cannot separate being enslaved for hundreds of years with our condition right now. You can't separate, well, that ain't got nothing to do with it. That's over with. No, it got a lot to do with it. But ultimately, we know it all comes from God. So he said, you're going to become an astonishment. And then he said a proverb and a byword. That means all kind of riddles and bad, negative sayings will float around about you. A proverb and a byword is a nickname. That's why we've been some of everything except something that means a nation, a people. We've been some of everything. Like I said last night, I knew a guy on his birth certificate, it had Negro. He was born a Negro, and he married a woman, and on her birth certificate, it had color. So that means they really was two different people. A Negro man married a colored woman. That's because it had changed by the time her birth certificate was made at. It had changed what byword we was going by. Now we like to go by black. That's why we titled this series, The Bible's Black History. But hey, black is not a nationality. African American is not a nationality. All bywords. Negro, color. And show, like I said, most black people nowadays, if you honestly call them a Negro, especially if a Gentile, white person called them Negro, they probably get offended. Hey, Negro. They get offended. But yet still, some of them still pay money to the NAACP and don't know, or colored. I should have said colored because that NAACP got colored in it, not Negro. Definitely you'll get offended if somebody called you colored. Hey, colored guy, would you come here? Man, they'd be ready to fight, wouldn't they? They would be ready to fight. They called me colored. But your people used to go by colored. That's a legitimate byword. But then people still get their money and support the NAACP and act like they don't know what it stands for. The National Association for the Advancement of what people? Colored people. Colored people. That's who that represents. Where they at now? Because ain't nobody even going by that. They forgot to change the name. They need to update the name. But that just show you God know what he's talking about. He said, you're going to become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all the nations, whether the Lord shall lead you. We scattered in many nations, and we suffer in the same predicament, not just in America, in other countries, in the islands, among Ham, other black people, even other black people in African countries oppress us. That's what they was doing in Ethiopia. They was oppressing the Ethiopians. True Hamites were oppressing the people called Philistines, which means strangers. They was oppressing them severely, hurting them bad, and a lot of them end up in the land of Israel because of it, because the people in the land said, look, we'll get some of them to help our numbers, the Edomites, because they don't care. They don't care. They don't even care that we say we Israel, as long as we don't say they not Israel, which they not. But now, go further. Go to verse 41 and go ahead.
Thou shalt beget of sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity.
See, captivity, which is the same as slavery. That's where it always ends. That's why to this day, it's one group of people that came here by way of slavery, captivity. Verse 45. Go ahead.
Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee.
Now, we didn't read them all. We read a substantial amount of them just to get the gist of it. But God said all these curses shall come upon you. And we know they was put in force because Isaiah said Israel is given to the curses. Daniel said the curse and the oath written in the law of Moses is poured upon us. So he said, moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee. Go ahead.
And shall pursue thee.
See, again, according to people that say they blessed and highly favored, I guess we shouldn't read this. Why shouldn't we read it when it's in the Bible for you to know about? He said, moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee and pursue you and overtake thee. Go ahead.
Till thou be destroyed.
And that's where we are now. We destroyed as a people. We still here, but we destroyed. We don't know who we are and where we come from. And if you don't know where you come from, you don't know where you're going. Go ahead.
Because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee.
That's the reason why, though. Therefore what?
And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder and upon thy seed forever.
And they what? The curses. These curses going to be upon you. I told you, this is not no short-lived curse. This is going to happen for a few years or a generation. No, once these curses set in, we've been cursed for the duration, all the way to the end of time. So he said, they shall be upon thee for a sign. What's a sign? That's something you see to recognize, that identifies something or some place. In this case, The curse identifies the children of Israel. Why? Because you became lost. You became proverbs and bywords. You don't know who you are. You hidden from your own self. But the only thing that let us know who we are is look for the sign. What's the sign? The curse. That's bad when you got to look for something bad. Oh, yeah, that's them. Right. Oh, yeah. You see some bad stuff happen to people all the time. There they go. Oh, they got drug and slavery. Yep, that's them. Good. It's going to be good for everybody, not just Israel, the people that's been lost in slavery. It's going to be good for the whole world, all nations, because God is the God of all nations. He just started with Israel. So other people that believe the truth, following Israel's God, are going to be blessed too. He said it won't be no hurt or destruction. So if he haven't killed you, you're going to enjoy the best time the earth has ever seen. The earth going to be full of it. Now, notice it's about knowledge. You're going to know about God. Just like we know about all this, everybody going to know about God. The knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. Verse 10.
And in that day there shall be a root of Jesse.
See, that's the same one. Go ahead.
Which shall stand for an ensign of the people.
Uh-huh.
To it shall the Gentiles seek, and his rest shall be glorious.
See, some Hebrew brothers that believe in Israel and preach a little stuff like this that we preach, talk about Israel, and we know we Israel. They try to say the Gentiles, all the other nationalities, going to be destroyed. But that's not biblical. The Lord going to save people from all nationalities. He coming first and foremost for Israel, but he said even the Gentiles going to seek it because he going to set everything among Israel, and the Gentiles are smart. They're going to say, nah, that's the real God. It's just the same way when Israel left Egypt. Don't you know some Egyptians, they said, look, Pharaoh, he don't know what he dealing with. I'm going to be on the side with Israel. I'm going to be on the right side of the fence. And some Egyptians left with Israel. Right. Right. Other nations left with Israel, and they served the God of Israel until we messed up. But now, verse 11, so he said the Gentiles going to seek, and his rest, it's going to be a rest, 1,000 years of peace. It's going to be a glorious when he do this. But it all hinges on him coming back and gathering Israel from slavery, removing this curse that has been all we have known for centuries. He going to remove this curse, brothers and sisters. Verse 11.
And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people.
Why he say the second time? Because it's only going to be one time comparable to what he going to do this time, and that's when he brought us out of Egypt with signs and wonders, miracles, split the Red Sea, did all kind of wonders. That was the first time. This time going to be like that. That's how you going to know when Israel go back. It's going to be the greatest thing the world has ever seen. It's not going to be like the so-called Jews said happened in 48. They said, well, that's when we went back to the homeland. Look, did nothing happen like that. They just had, they got the United Nations helped them get the land. No, the Lord ain't going to need no help from the United Nations. The Lord is going to do all kind of wonders to bring Israel back. That's why I said the second time. He going to recover the remnant of his people. But we not in one country like Egypt. We all over the world. Notice where he said he going to name some countries. Go ahead.
Which shall be left from
where?
Assyria.
From Assyria, go
and
ahead.
From Egypt. And from Pathros. And from Cush. And from Elam.
Go ahead.
And from Shinar.
Go ahead.
And from Hamath. And from the islands of the sea.
See, and we scattered way out here. We just an island over here. But the Lord not going to forget about it because he said he going to gather us from the four winds. From one end of heaven to the, from all the nations. That's got to be incredible, brothers and sisters. It was incredible enough when he gathered Israel from Egypt and humbled Pharaoh. Right. Now he going to gather people from all over the world, and he know who every one of us are. And he going to bring us back and not just bring us back from slavery. I'm talking about make Israel a great nation again, a godly nation, fearing God, serving God. That seems impossible right now, as bad a shape we in. But God going to do it. Go ahead, verse 12.
And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather together to disperse the Judah from the four corners of the earth.
There go that four corners. Didn't Jesus say the four winds? Well, it was already written, the four corners. Verse 15. Let's see some of the wonders and drama that's going to happen. Go ahead.
And the Lord shall utterly destroy the tongue of the Egyptian sea.
See, this seems almost too incredible to believe, but it's written in the Bible for a reason. If God did it when he brought Israel out of Egypt, why we think it's too hard for him to do now? Or why we think he don't care now? And Jesus said he was only sent to the lost sheep of Israel. Jesus said salvation is of the Jews. Amos said, Israel only have I known. So he not done with Israel, even though he cursed us for a long time. So the Lord shall utterly destroy the tongue of the Egyptian sea. Just like he destroyed the Red Sea, split the Red Sea, he going to destroy the tongue of the Egyptian sea. Go ahead.
And with his mighty wind shall he shake his hand over the river, and shall smite it in the 7 streams.
7 streams. Go
and
ahead.
make men go over dry shod.
Go ahead.
And there shall be an highway for the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, like as it was to Israel in the day that they came up out of the land of Egypt.
See, that lets you know it's a whole different thing, whole different time. It's the second time, but it's just like the first time. Because he said, like as it was to Israel, it's going to be the same way when Israel left Egypt. All kind of wonders and drama. But the amazing thing, we coming from all kind of directions this time. Now, let's go to Isaiah 14. Flip over 2 chapters. Because the Lord is thorough on this. So this is the Bible's Black History Part 2. The last part, we seen that Israel got cursed, but now we at the part where the curse is going to be alleviated. It's going to be lifted. See, the curse had to have an end to it because God is merciful. 14:1. Go ahead.
For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob.
See, he's going to have some mercy. Finally, we need some too. But we deserve what we got. But being that God is merciful and he don't change, he is going to rectify and change things. He's going to change this curse. He said, for the Lord will have mercy on Jacob and what?
And will yet choose Israel.
See, so all this is not going to be no more. All this hanging that Israel went through, he's going to choose Israel and they're going to be the top nation again. Go ahead.
And set them in their own land.
Oh, they're going to go to their own land because we got a land. We just don't know it now. Those of us with knowledge know it, but most Israelites don't know it. That's what we trying to wake up. See, that's why we preaching in other places. We're not worried about somebody that know the word. If you know the word, good, hold on to it. We're trying to find people that don't know the word. How many people in the world don't know what we know plain today? You can't count them. So he said he going to set them in their own land and what?
And the stranger shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob.
You know that's going to be a reversal because he says strangers going to be joined with you. See, right now we've been cursed so bad, don't nobody want to be with us.
Right.
That's why, you know, we move into a neighborhood pretty soon. A few more get there, Gentiles and other people be moving out. You see U-Hauls backed up in the middle of the night. They be packed up and be gone. Because they don't want to be around, and rightly so, because Israel is cursed. Some problems going to come with Israel around, because Israel is under curse. It's going to be a little worse. Property value going to go down. It's going to be worse. So, but at this time, this people going to want to be around Israel because Israel won't be cursed no more. Israel will be blessed to the max all over again, and that's going to last forever. That's why he said, and strangers, that's non-Israelite, that lets you know it be some other people with Israel too. Some people say, well, they just going to be servants. Look, some going to be servants, but some going to have rights like Israel because they're going to be serving the God of Israel in advance. He said, strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. But notice, Jacob is going to be the one to be with. Go ahead, verse 2.
And the people shall take them and bring them to their place. And the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids. And they shall take them captives, who captives they were.
Oh, you don't need to even try to interpret that, do you? They shall take them captives, whose captives they were. The only thing is, we're not going to be hanging the slaves on trees and misusing them. Even the slaves going to be treated with some fairness at this time because it's going to be in God's kingdom. But clearly somebody's going to be the boss, And it's going to be the ones who used to be the slaves, brothers and sisters. He said they're going to take them captives whose captives they were, right?
Right.
We ain't going to know how to act with that. You ain't going to know how to be the one in charge. But we'll figure it out. I guess that won't be hard. Go ahead.
And they shall rule over their oppressors.
And they shall rule over their oppressors. Go ahead.
And it shall come to pass in the day that the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow, and from thy fear, and from the hard bondage wherein thou wast made to serve.
See, we're going to get some rest from this hard bondage. Skip over to verse 7 and read that, because this is what it's going to be when it's all said and done, when the Lord bring Israel back. Go ahead.
The whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They break forth into singing.
It's going to be so good, the whole earth going to be peaceful. But it hinges on God removing the curse from Israel and bringing Israel home to the promised land. Revelation 7, and one more after this. Show you this is no joke, brothers and sisters. People want to think Israel don't matter no more. Israel been done away with, and Jesus it's just open seas and don't matter. Look, Jesus do everything with Israel first. He didn't say for no reason he was only sent to the lost sheep of Israel. So he dealt with other nations, but he dealt with Israel first. Notice in Revelation, before God started plaguing man, he going to make sure he set aside some Israelites right here to make sure don't nothing happen to them. So if Israel done away with and don't matter to Jesus or God, why are we reading in Revelation a separation of Israel to make sure he don't get hurt or damaged? Specifically Israel. 7 and 2. Revelation 7 and 2. And we're going to wrap it up. Go ahead.
And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea.
So he got the seal, and he don't want these angels to do no damage, because they about to do some damage. But he don't want them to do no damage until something happens. What?
Saying, hurt not the earth,
go ahead,
neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads.
So we got to seal the servants of our God. Now, if Israel don't matter, we shouldn't see nothing about Israel in Revelation at the end of time. This is the end of time, when God is going to start plaguing man to take over. Go ahead.
And I heard the number of them which were sealed.
How many?
And there was sealed 144,000 of the tribes of the children of Israel.
See, of all the tribes of the children of Israel, he going to seal right this time 144,000. He going to make sure they protected from any harm or damage. If Israel don't matter, brothers and sisters, why are we reading this? If God done away with Israel, look, he cursed Israel for a time, but we reading, he going to remove the curse. He going to remove Israel from slavery. So he got to save some, right? He got to make sure they don't get hurt here. There's going to be some other ones too, but he making sure these right here don't get hurt. Go ahead.
Of the tribe of Judah was sealed 12,000.
See, I read that because somebody said, oh, we are all spiritual Israel. Look, Gentiles, other nations got to become spiritual Israel. They got to operate like Israel. But that don't do away. You can't do away with the physical Israel who come first and foremost in God's eyesight. So this is physical Israel because he even naming them by their home tribes. Which tribe they from? Which we don't know now, but God knows. He said of the tribe of Judah was sealed 12,000. Go ahead.
Of the tribe of Reuben was sealed 12,000.
See, that's a key to let you know the people in the land can't be back home, Israel, because they can't show you no tribes. Only thing they talk about is Jews. They don't talk about Reuben and Naphtali and Gad. They don't talk about the other tribes. Where the other tribes at? Where are any tribes at? Because they not the tribe of Judah. They can't talk about it because it's not, this haven't been fulfilled yet. But when this is fulfilled, of the tribe of Judah, 12,000 going to get sealed. Of the tribe of Reuben, sealed 12,000. What else?
Of the tribe of Gad were sealed 12,000.
Now skip to verse 9, because once he get through with the 12 tribes of Israel, he got some more people, because God is a God of all people. And he going to save people from all nationalities. He just start with Israel. Go ahead, verse 9.
After this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongue, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands.
Now, some Israelites say God not going to deal with other nations. They even some kind of way try to make these not other nations, but still Israel somehow. No, that's not the case. This said, he saw after the 144,000, he saw a great multitude which no man can now number of all nations and kindreds and people. And what can you get out of that this is some other nationalities? I don't know how these Israelites, they've been brainwashed so bad, they twist everything up. They read this, say, that's still only Israel. God don't deal with other people like that. What Bible you reading? He said all kindreds, all nations, all kindreds, all people, all tongues stood before the throne. Go ahead, verse 10.
And cried with a loud voice, saying, salvation to our God, which sitteth upon the throne and unto the Lamb.
See, but these people, they going to understand who Israel is. They're not going to have no problem with God having chose Israel because that's God's will. Just like the woman in Matthew 15, Jesus told her he was only sent to the lost sheep. And she said, yeah, but still, just give me a little help. She said, no, it ain't. He said, it ain't good for me to take the children's bread and cast it to the dogs. Then the woman was smart. She said, yeah, but Lord, don't the dogs get a few crumbs? Now, come on. And Jesus said, oh, you got me. He said, you got me. I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to go out of order for you because you got a lot of faith. See, when people have faith in God's plan, hey, God look out for them too. Because he's not just the God of Israel, even though that's who he started with. He's the God of everybody. But now, one more place, Zechariah 8. Zechariah 8, this is it. So this is the Bible's Black History Part 2. We saw in Part 1 that, yeah, Israel is a black people. We saw it's important who Israel is and where they are now because Jesus said he was only sent to them. And we saw they black, but now in Part 2 we saw that how do you know them from other black people? That they are cursed. And God is going to redeem us from this curse in our time. It's coming soon. Zechariah 8 and 7, and this is it. Zechariah 8 and 7, because we saw, he said, after the blessing and the curse, he's going to wake you up and bring you home. Go ahead, 8 and 7.
Thus saith the Lord of hosts, behold, I will save my people from the east country and from the west country. And I will bring them, and they shall dwell in the midst of Jerusalem.
See, he got to bring us home. He got to do that. But he got to save us from all these countries where we scattered at. He said, I will save my people from the east and from the west. We saw from the four corners already. And I will bring them, and they shall dwell in the midst of Jerusalem. Go ahead.
And they shall be my people. And I will be their God. In truth and in righteousness.
Now skip to verse. He's going to be Israel's God in truth and in righteousness. Skip to verse 13, and let's see the status quo at this time for Israel. Because we got blessed for a minute. We got cursed for a long time. But now what? 13.
And it shall come to pass that as ye were a curse among the heathen.
Oh, and we've been here, right? To this day, we've been a curse among the nations. That's what heathen mean. But at this time, he said, and it shall come to pass that as ye were a curse among the heathen. Go ahead.
O house of Judah and house of Israel, so will I save you. And ye shall be blessing. Fear not, but let your hands be strong.
He said, I'm going to save you, and you shall be a blessing. And that means other people are going to be blessed by Israel. That's why other people are going to want to be around Israel at this time. So he said, so will I save you, and you shall be a blessing. The curse is going to be removed. Fear not, but let your hands be strong. Hope you got some understanding in Jesus' name.